I'm a survivor of the Tulsa Race Massacre. 2 weeks ago, I celebrated my 107th birthday. The night of the massacre, I was awakened by my family. My parents and 5 siblings were there. I was told we had to leave, and that was it. I will never forget the violence of the white mob when we left our home. I still see black men being shot, black bodies lying in the street. I still smell smoke and see fire. I still see black businesses being burned. I still hear airplanes flying overhead. I hear the screams. I have lived through the massacre every day. Our country may forget this history, but I cannot.
Wow. Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Tiffany Crutcher, and I am a proud member of the Justice for Greenwood Foundation, and I would like to welcome each and every one of you for joining us on today. It seems like it was just yesterday, just a few short weeks ago, that we commemorated the 100-year anniversary of the worst racial terror attack in U.S. history, and that was the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre. And I am still on cloud 9. We've gotten a lot of questions since then about what's next. And for the Justice for Greenwood community, guess what? The fight for justice continues. And so I just want to give a huge shout out to everyone who came home for the commemoration, for the anniversary. I'll never forget the moment. People came from all over the nation to help us commemorate and help us rally cry for justice. And so I just want to give a huge shout out to some of our partners. We have grown just over the last few weeks. Of course, I got to shout out the Terrence Crutcher Foundation, the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, who brought a delegation here to Tulsa, the Human Rights Watch, who's been just, some of the best partners ever, Color of Change. They were on ground, the Black Wall Street Times, our sister, Lady Angela Rye, Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. We had the honor and privilege of having him here on this sacred ground just a few short weeks ago. Attorney Benjamin Crump, our Attorney General for Black America, the Congressional Black Caucus, who I had the honor of spending time with just over the last few days in DC, and they are still talking about Tulsa and what they can do to continue to help us. Roland Martin, I can't say enough about our brother, our national legal team, SRZ, Schulte, Roth, and Zabel, and so many more. We just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. And if you're on this line this evening, join the movement, join the team. We are so much stronger together, and we are growing exponentially. And so I want to say welcome to you. And if you're a descendant on this call, we want to give a special welcome and shout out to you, because this is your organization. This is your community. It's all about you. And for anyone out there that hasn't been able to plug into the work that we're doing here in this community in Tulsa with Justice for Greenwood, we implore you to join, call our Descendants hotline. And right now, at the outset of this call, we want you to hashtag Justice for Greenwood or go to justiceforgreenwood.com. You just saw the number on the line. You can get your questions answered by calling our Descendants hotline. This is your organization. And so without further ado, I'm always honored and privileged to bring this gentleman on the line, the founder of the Justice for Greenwood Foundation and the lead attorney for the historic litigation for respect, repair, and restitution, none other than my brother, my friend, Attorney Damario Solomon-Simmons.
Well, Doc, I sure appreciate it. It's always good to be in your presence. I appreciate everything you're doing for our community and for Justice for Greenwood, and the work you just finished doing this past couple of days, being up in D.C., meeting with congressional leaders. I saw you meet with Senator Cory Booker, meeting with Brenda Lawrence, Representative Maxine Waters. We thank you for your immense effort. And obviously, you are a direct descendant also. So we're in this fight. Not only are you fighting with us, but we're fighting for you. And I'm so excited about getting back live on our town hall. talking to our community as it continues to grow. As Tiffany has stated, we have made so many strides, but we have so much more work to do. And we're going to talk about that. But I definitely want to highlight what we have been able to accomplish just over the last few months. If we get to the next slide, one of the things that we set out from the outset was to make sure that when people talked about Tulsa and the centennial, it was not about cultural tourism. It wasn't about Tulsa triumph. It was about the people impacted by the massacre. And we wanted the question to be asked, this question that the New York Times asked: what is it going to look like, justice in Greenwood, justice in Tulsa, 100 years after the massacre? And that question was paramount on everyone that came and stood strong with us. That we are not about celebrations, we're about reparations, restitution, and repair. We want to make sure that what happened to those people, not just 100 years ago, but the 100 years of continuing harm, that we receive justice for that. And how did we do that? You saw a little clip of the work that this group of people that believe in restitution, believe in repair, went to Washington, D.C. and took 100-year-old plus individuals to DC with us and actually allowed them to tell their story, their personal story. We go to the next slide. And the thing about that personal story of those survivors, they weren't just speaking for themselves. They were speaking for everyone that's been impacted by the Tulsa Race Massacre. They told in their own words what they saw, what they still see, and they all stated, we need and we want justice, and we need it now. We go to the next slide, please. You saw Mother Fletcher. You saw Uncle Red. You heard it from their voices. And then what you may have not known, after we spent that time with the congressional leaders, we had the privilege and the opportunity to go and spend time with the Vice President of the United States of America, none other than Madam Kamala Harris, the Madam VP. She spent quality time with our team, with her staff. They let us know that they are with us when it comes to getting justice for Greenwood. She spent time with our survivors. As you see in these pictures, getting down on their level, letting them know that she loved them and she stands with their righteous fight for justice for themselves, their families, and everyone impacted by the Tulsa Race Massacre. She says justice for Greenwood is a priority for her. And because of that momentum, when we came back to Tulsa, we were able to connect with the Congressional Black Caucus, as Tiffany already stated, who came and partnered with us on an official level, sent a delegation to participate in our Justice for Greenwood initiatives and events. They came and participated. They came and talked. They came and said, we are with you with legislation. Right in the middle, Brother Hank Johnson, who's my fraternity brother, Representative Congressman Hank Johnson, who was just arrested today fighting for the end of the filibuster. He introduced an act to help us in our fight for justice for Greenwood. Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, Congresswoman Barbara Lee, Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence, and so many more. And of course, Tiffany already talked about our dear sister Angela Rye, who stood strong with us and still stands strong with us. We had these individuals that's with us, not just during a centennial, but as Tiffany just went out and spent time with them this week, they've invited me out to come and spend time with them next week to talk about what our next steps are. We go to the next slide. But just as importantly, we had the vice president, we had congressional leaders, but because of the work that we were doing at Justice for Greenwood, because of the work of putting justice and racial equity and restitution and repair forefront of the centennial, the president of the United States could have been anywhere in the nation that he wanted, in the world he wanted to be. He chose to come to the Greenwood Cultural Center. He chose to be with us. He chose to spend time with the actual living survivors. He chose to spend an hour meeting with them. He chose this because of the work we did. And particularly, I want to give another shout out to my sister, Dr. Tiffany Crutcher, who worked so closely with Joe Biden, President Biden's staff, Cedric Richmond, and others to make sure that when he came to Tulsa, he stood with those who are standing for truth, justice, reparations, and restitution. That is an endorsement of our mission. That is an endorsement of our narrative. There's an endorsement of our foundation and the work that we're trying to do, because the fight is not over. If you believe the fight is not over, I want you to hashtag Justice for Greenwood right now. Put a hashtag Justice for Greenwood if you believe that the fight needs to continue until we have what? reparations. Hit that Justice for Greenwood and then hashtag reparations now. Hashtag reparations now. Hashtag reparations now. But it didn't stop there that we had the congressional members. It didn't stop that we had the vice president. We had the president. Most importantly, the most important people outside of our survivors is our descendants. We were able to launch what we call We Are Greenwood campaign. And you're going to hear more about that. Well, we were bringing in our descendants from all around the nation to rekindle those family relationships, to understand what we're trying to do for all descendants. And we were able to start, and you're going to hear more about our oral history project. Well, we are trying to make sure that we're amplifying the voices. And you're going to hear much more about that in just a moment. But we were so proud to stand with our descendants. At this point right now, as I speak, we have over 500 descendants in the Justice for Greenwood network. Now, I can't see you, but you need to be clapping because that is amazing. Over 500 engaged descendants in our Justice for Greenwood network that we speak to, we talk with. We have a weekly newsletter to our descendants. As you already saw, we have a descendant hotline set up specifically for descendants as we roll out our programs and as we continue to fight for justice and justice for Greenwood and reparations now. If we go to our next slide, I just want to tell you, this was just a sample of this oral history project. Next slide, please. We also partnered with one of the most prestigious universities in the nation, the New School up in New York City with the great Dr. Derek Hamilton. And we partnered and we produced a tremendous report. And it's called The Color of Wealth, the Destruction of Greenwood and Tulsa's Legacy of Loss. And in this report, which will be available in just a few short weeks, we've already published our advanced executive summary, where we looked at the data and see what did it do to our people to have Greenwood destroyed. And so we know for a fact, for instance, that right now in Tulsa, the average white family is worth $145,000. The average white family. While the average black family is only worth $8,000. I'm gonna say that again. The average black family in Tulsa is only worth $8,000. That is a direct result of the Tulsa Massacre and the 100 years of continuing harm. That is why we're focused on restitution. That is why we focus on repair. That is why we focus on restitution and restoration, because we cannot go another 100 years where there's $145,000 white wealth versus $8,000 black wealth. And all this work couldn't have been done just by myself. All this work is not just being done by Dr. Crutcher. We have a team of people, a team of dedicated individuals from all around the nation and very diverse who came together and been working so hard on the behalf of Justice for Greenwood. This team is diverse. I'm proud of the team, how hard they work, the commitment that they have to Justice for Greenwood, the commitment to see truth, to see justice, to see reparations and restitution. I'm proud that we have several direct descendants that are on our team. I'm proud that we have several individuals that graduated from the great Booker T. Washington High School. I'm proud we have several individuals who live and grew up and still live in North Tulsa. And I'm proud that we just assembled such a magnificent, talented group of individuals to work on all our behalf, to get justice for Greenwood. And one of those individuals who just joined us just a couple months ago, and she's become full-time. I'm so excited to introduce our Deputy Director of the Justice for Greenwood Foundation. She started full-time a couple of weeks ago. Many of you around Tulsa would know this young lady. She's a Booker T. Washington graduate. She's a North Tulsa. Yolantreese Collins. Treese, we are so excited to have you on our team. We're so excited that you're going to help us get to the next level. So I want you to introduce yourself to our community and tell them some of the great things in store in the near future for Justice for Greenwood.
Absolutely. Thank you for that introduction. Good evening, actually, everyone. I'm really excited to be with you all today. As Damario mentioned, I recently just started as the Deputy Director for Justice for Greenwood. And essentially what that means is that I'm responsible for supporting and helping to push forward some of the initiatives and projects that the foundation itself has. And so what I'm gonna do tonight is share with you some initiatives and projects that we are really, really excited about, that the team has been working incredibly hard on. And one of those initiatives and one of those projects actually is a website. You all, we are getting a brand new website. We are so excited. It's being put together by one of our amazing partners, Commerce House, and it's actually being designed, being led by one of our Greenwood descendants, Jaya Rapp. And so we envision this website as an innovative digital living museum. It'll provide historical context, educational resources, a media archive, and most importantly, it'll be a repository for where the stories of our descendants will live. We envision our new website being kind of like a centralized online home for all things Greenwood. So it'll be launching soon, be looking out for. We are really excited about this. So the next project that I'm talking about, which is kind of an ongoing project for us, I mentioned before about the website housing or being a storing place for our descendant stories. And the process, that story gathering process, is what we like to call our oral history project. Now, this oral history project, again, it's ongoing. It really emerged out of the need to document and amplify the history of massacre survivors and descendants, and being told by our survivors and descendants from their perspective. So this project is really a way to reclaim the history and preserve it for generations to come. This has been ongoing. We started this in 2020, last year, in the midst of the pandemic. And one of the things that we noticed or we recognize is that oral histories is not only shines a light on what was stolen from Greenwood residents, but it also has been able to highlight for us in very powerful ways the resilience of our community. So we are, again, incredibly excited about this oral history project. During the pandemic, we were able to begin. Our team was talking to individuals all across the country over Zoom. And it was in May of this past May, a few months ago, during the centennial, where we were able to host in-person story gathering event. We worked with a production team who helped document over a dozen short interviews with our descendants. So thank you to every descendant that's on the line. Thank you so much for all of you who have participated up to this point. Together, we are reclaiming the narrative. Work without you. So that's going to lead me to our third initiative, is our descendant hotline. As Damario mentioned, we have connected with over 500 descendants, which is absolutely amazing. But we also know that there are many, many, many more that we have yet to meet, that we have yet to talk to. So we want you to call the Descendant Hotline if you're not connected yet, and a member of our volunteer network will call you. Now, I've been told that when they call you back, it may show up as a blocked number, but know that that is us, and we hope you will answer, because again, we want to meet you, we want to know you, we want to hear your stories. We want you to be a part of this oral history project. Again, it's an ongoing project, but we want to hear from you, and we want you to be a part of it. There are two amazing team leaders that I've just had the privilege of working with these last few weeks. One being Greta Smith Wisniewski. She is our oral historian, and then DJ Mercer, which many of you have probably already talked to already or will talk to. He is our descendant coordinator. So again, we want you to be a part of this project. So make sure you go to the Descendant Hotline and sign up. So with that, I will turn it over to DJ. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Yolantrice, and welcome to the team. You've been a great boon for us, and we're so excited to have you on the team. For those of you who don't know, my name is DJ Mercer, and I'm the Descendant Coordinator for Justice for Greenwood. I am also a resident of North Tulsa, so this is this initiative and Justice for Greenwood is very, very important to me and personal for me. So I don't only do this work with you, I do this work for you. And make sure that you all get in contact with us via our Descendant Hotline or online. You fill out the Descendant intake form and we will get in contact with you so that maybe one day you will be able to be on the Descendant Spotlight for a town hall and tell us and the world about your amazing ancestor and the amazing work you're doing in Tulsa or wherever you are, because we know the Greenwood diaspora is wide, it's far-reaching, and it is powerful. And we have two powerful descendants today who are going to tell us about their ancestor and what makes their ancestor special. So I would like to bring on Danielle Smith, as well as the wonderful Jackie Emerson. So in the chat, type Justice for Greenwood, as well as where you're from, as we get into the Descendant spotlight this evening. So Miss Danielle Smith and Miss Jackie Emerson, thank you for gracing us with your presence today. And it is our honor for you all to be here with us, as well as tell us about your ancestor, which is John R. Emerson Sr. So Jackie, tell us about John R. Emerson Sr.
John R. Sr., my grandfather, was an entrepreneur. He wasn't new to it because his father, and like Damario said, back in Logan County, they had a storefront that actually supplied farm equipment, farm supplies to the farmers there. After John R. Emerson's father, Jerry D. Emerson, which was the first Black jailer there, after he was killed, he decided that Tulsa is booming. Let me go. So that's what he did. He left Logan County, came to Tulsa, where he had actually a rooming house and a hotel that he had built. Even after the race massacre, 1920 race massacre, he said, I can't give up. I've got to keep moving. I've got to help our people. He decided that he actually got a lot of land from Indians, and I still have those abstracts and deeds here with me as well, in a box, okay, in a box where, if we ever have a fire or anything, they will be preserved. And so, and impeccable records on all the houses that he had built and had rented out to help after the massacre, where homes were burned down. He also went on to do a Bluebird Cab Company, which you see, that is the picture right there. He went on to do that as well. And he had, after the massacre, he even had another hotel with the storefront underneath it. So he was an entrepreneur, and he was actually a human who wanted to help those who were in need by building over 100 homes here in Tulsa. Actually, I'm living in the last home that's in our name right now, and we're working on the historic site. Yay. And we are working on the street to be named after him as well. I can't say enough about my grandfather, his persistence, his perseverance, his duty to the community. Even at one point, it seemed like it was an Emerson Clinic, okay, in North Tulsa as well. So I'm saying he had his hands in so much, in real estate, hotel business, cab company, just not to give up. What can I say? A man who persevered after so much. Actually, after him and Aunt Janona hid up under the railroad tracks during the race massacre, and they survived that by hiding under the railroad tracks, and then came out, okay, victorious. And I just can't say enough about him. DJ, I'll turn it over to you again.
Sweet, thank you. Danielle, my next question is for you. What made him special? We know he's a beautiful human being, but I don't know him. He's not in my family. So tell the world what made him so special, Danielle.
Well, thank you for having us here, DJ and Justice for Greenwood. He is my great-great-grandfather, and I think his open heart and his willingness to help the community as a whole made my great-great-grandfather a beautiful soul and a human being. He touched many lives in this community and still continues to this day. Had he not took my great grandmother, who was Janona, and hid her under that bridge, his perseverance to live and survive and continue on, then we wouldn't be here to tell this glorious story. And so his hard work demeanor, his humanity is what made him be able to survive and help other people and help rebuild Greenwood back to what it was after it was destroyed from its glory in 1921. And he helped do that. So he was beyond an entrepreneur. He really was. I don't know the proper word to say for it right now. I can't think. Sorry, but he really saw into more of it. He's more like the 1984 book person. He really saw into the future on how businesses and what we could do with our community here in Tulsa. That's what made him such a great human being. And if these current those current political incidents weren't engraved into what is currently happening now over the last 100 years, would not have happened to Greenwood. We would have benefited royally. And so I'm really grateful for Justice for Greenwood to get involved right now.
It is absolutely our honor and pleasure to work for descendants like yourself and descendants across the nation and even globally. So to stay on the theme of political, if you could say something to Tulsa city officials, and I'll kick it back to Ms. Weary, if you could say something to Tulsa city officials as a descendant of Greenwood, just a real short, what would you say to Tulsa city officials as a descendant of Greenwood?
It's 100 years too long. It's time for you to give back what was rightfully ours. It's time for you to set up funds for education for the descendants and the survivors if they would like to go back to school. It's time for you to set up funds where we can, if we want to go into business for ourselves, it's time for you to set up funds, okay, to actually rebuild and help us rebuild back Greenwood. It's time for you to stop denying what has really happened here 100 years ago in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's time for you to admit it. It's time for you to pay up and pay out.
Preach. Danielle,
Yes.
Next question and last question I have for you is, what does Justice for Greenwood look like for you?
What it looks like for me is it looks like equity for a community as a whole, but more of equity ownership for our community, and that entails recognition, reparations, and progression for the entire Greenwood historical district, not the one block that has just been put into the national historical district, but the entire 36 or 40 blocks, or 35, I think it's 35 and 40 blocks, that is truly Greenwood, where all the signs are located, not just what's south of the I-244, but what's north of it. And so that's what it looks like to me, equity for the entire Greenwood community and North Tulsa, because that's what we all deserve. As my cousin said, it's been too long, and I'll repeat, recognition, reparations, and progression. So equity, ownership for all of us. That's what it looks like to me.
Amen. Thank you, both of you, for gracing us with your powerful speeches. your amazing minds, and doing your ancestor John R. Emerson proud by living and doing the work, being those influential individuals that you are, and keeping his legacy strong, telling the stories, not only for yourself, but also for the world, because you are powerful, and because you are powerful, we are powerful, because we are with you and we work for you. So thank you so much for being you, to Danielle and Jackie Emerson. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank
for
you for
having us,
having us.
DJ. God bless you.
Amen. Yes, ma'am. You too. So before I kick it back to Dr. Crutcher, I want to put out a personal shout out for a couple of descendants that I've seen in the chat. Pamela Vinson, I see you. Timothy Mayo, I see you. Virgil Rowe, I saw you in there as well. Thank you so much to the descendants that I saw. I'm sorry if I didn't point you out specifically, but thank you for you all for staying with us and sticking with us and just being engaging with us throughout this process. So thank you so much. And remember, if you are a descendant and I have not got contact with you, reach out to us via our descendant hotline or fill out our descendant intake form on our website. Thank you, Dr. Crutcher. Kicking it back to you.
Wow, thank you so much, DJ. Simply amazing, Jackie, Danielle, and thank you for all you do, DJ, to make sure that you're serving our descendants in the most dignified way. This is one of my favorite portions of our meetings, to hear from the descendants and just hear them talk about the ancestors and how great Black Wall Street was, the community of Greenwood. So thank you so much. And before we move on to the next segment, supporters from all over the country, I've seen them join in. I want to give a special shout out to my brother out of Montgomery, Alabama, who's on the line, Mr. Anthony Brock, the leader of Valiant Cross Academy, an all Black boys school there. My sister out of Chicago, Illinois, I've seen her on the line, Lady Deidre Cunningham, and to all of the organizers and supporters, because it's going to take all of us, as Yolantri said, reclaiming our narrative. I saw Moneta High on the line. We have to reclaim our narrative and make sure that we're all speaking the same language, because there are some narratives out there that don't fit our narrative, but this isn't political for us. This isn't politics as usual. This is about justice. And I remember when Olivia Hooker, Otis T. Clark, Wes Young went to the Supreme Court, they gave us that charge. And Uncle Red gave us that charge to never give up the fight, never stop fighting. And so I want to just also acknowledge our advisor, our dear friend, Mr. Brian Stevenson with the Equal Justice Initiative, and our amazing legal team. Our team is growing by leaps and bounds. Look at all of these amazing people. And guess what? We have two of the members right here. I would like to bring on the line Mr. Eric Miller, Attorney Eric Miller, to talk about the public nuisance claim that we have. And Mr. Maynard Henry, I'd like to bring you all on and just ask you a few questions. There's a lot of frequently asked questions that are out there in the community, and I believe it's not what you say, but it's what you keep saying, and repetition is so needed as descendants continue to ask questions and want to get involved. And so, Eric Miller, how are you this evening?
I'm doing really well. It's so wonderful to hear, to speak to you for a start, but also to hear the wonderful memories that the descendants shared of their great-grandfather, and that's who we're here for, is survivors and descendants. Those are the people that we're here to serve.
Absolutely. Well, I have just two questions for you. Inquiring minds want to know, what is the current status of the public nuisance claim case? And question number two, what does the claim mean for all descendants and not just the named plaintiffs? Okay,
so those are great questions. So on the status of the case, we've filed the case back in 2020 and at the end of 2020, and things move slowly in the legal world sometimes. So what's been happening is the 8 defendants filed 7 what are called motions to dismiss. And what that means is that they were trying to say that the litigation has no legal claim. So we haven't stated an appropriate legal claim. We then filed our responses to their motions to dismiss on June 2nd. And so we're currently waiting for the Judge Wall, to set a date either to hold a hearing where she can hear argument from both sides, or simply to rule against the defendants and allow the case to proceed forward to what's called discovery, where we get to ask questions to the defendants to establish in even greater detail the historical and legal record. So we're waiting on the judge is the short answer. Every week the legal team meets and we try and work out when the judge is going to move forward. The second question was, what does the lawsuit mean to the descendants? And so this lawsuit is a public nuisance lawsuit, and I worked on a federal lawsuit that was filed in 2003 on behalf of the then 125 survivors. And the difference between that lawsuit and this lawsuit has two major components. The first component is that for a public nuisance lawsuit, the statute of limitations doesn't apply. So we don't have the statute of limitations obstacle that we had in 2003. So I was one of the lawyers standing on the steps of the Supreme Court in 2005, when the Supreme Court refused to grant cert and dismissed the case on statute of limitations grounds. They said we didn't file in enough time. So there's no statute of limitations claim for public nuisance. Why? Because we are claiming that the harm is still going on, and a public nuisance lawsuit allows us to do that. The second difference is that whereas in 2003 we were essentially filing personal injury lawsuits, so constitutional personal injury lawsuits on behalf of each named plaintiff, in this litigation we are filing an injury to community lawsuit. So the claim is that so we're filing a lawsuit on behalf of the whole community. So even though there are 11 named plaintiffs in our current lawsuit, we don't need to name anymore. We only needed to name one, really, because the plaintiff is the community of Greenwood and North Tulsa and the Descendants. So it's an injury to community lawsuit, not a personal injury lawsuit. And so the major differences between the 2003 lawsuit and the current lawsuit is that it's focused on descendants and not just survivors. Did that answer both your questions?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I just learned something. I mean, that one key phrase, Eric, injury to community, not just the individual. And I hope that everyone hears that this is for the community, for the descendants. And I must say, Eric, I just thank you, because you didn't just start this. You didn't just call and say, I want to be a part of this. You have been on the front lines fighting for Greenwood for 20 years. You were one of the lead plaintiffs in that lawsuit back in 2003. And we can't say thank you enough. So thank you for that explanation. And if you have questions, again, we have that Descendants hotline, because I know a lot of people are asking, why come my name isn't on the lawsuit? Why is it just 5 people? But again, this is about injury to the community. This is for all of us. And so next, I want to bring on another member of our legal team, Mr. Maynard Henry. He's been fighting for reparations for 20 years as well. He hails from the state of Virginia. Are you on the call, Mr. Henry?
I am on the call, Dr. Crutcher. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, I just want to start by sharing with everyone that we put out a survey over the last few weeks. And if we could just bring up that slide. And we surveyed descendants. And as a descendant of a victim of a survivor of the Tulsa Race Massacre, we ask them, do you trust the city of Tulsa to oversee the mass graves process? And as you see here, overwhelmingly, 92.8% of descendants said absolutely not. And only 7.2% said yes. And so Attorney Henry, I would like to ask you a few questions. What was the legal team's reaction to the poll that was taken from the survivors and the
Dr. Crutcher, thank you very much for those questions. I want to say that we, as a legal team, 100% wholeheartedly adopt the survey. And so we as a team do not believe that the city, the mayor's office, or any of the other entities can be trusted. And because of this survey, we took the necessary steps to actually file what's called open records request under the Oklahoma Open Records Act. What that allows us to do is to retrieve information from the various entities that are out there, such as the mayor's office, the city council's office, the Mass Grave Investigation Public Oversight Committee, all the contractors that are doing the excavation work, the medical examiner's office, and a whole list of various entities that are working on the mass grave excavation. And because of that, one of the things that we all know as lawyers, but most of us know that knowledge is powerful. And so with that open records request, we have requested information from all these entities. And when we get that information, what it's going to allow us to do is to actually give oversight, to watch the various entities to do the job that they're supposed to do. They need to know that someone is looking over their back. The next thing, though, is if they are not doing the job that they're supposed to be doing, if we are not satisfied with the results and with the work that they're supposed to be doing, we will take the necessary steps to do our own work, to bring in our own medical examiners, to bring in our own contractors and excavators and things of that sort. Are the sites being explored, the suspected sites, are they being explored? Those are all the things that we want done in this situation, and we're going to make sure that's done. If they refuse to turn over records to us, then there is a recourse for that via the courts. And so we know that what open records entitles us to is any system of records that are kept. And so every one of the entities that are working on this project, they're keeping records. They have contracts, they have communications. And so we want all communications in any format, whether it's written, typed, digital, or otherwise. We're entitled to that. Recordings and everything, and all the expert reports that are done from the excavation and the medical examiner's office. And so if they say, well, we don't have them, we know that's a lie. And so they can only say that we're not going to turn them over to you. And if they do that, then we have a recourse through the courts. One of the other things that I just want to touch on very quickly, how does this benefit the survivors and the descendants? You brought up a good phrase, Dr. Crutcher, dignity. And so we want to know where the bodies have been buried, because that's going to bring spiritual healing to the descendants. It's going to bring a sense of some sort of closure. And we all have to realize that the ancestors are in the ground. Their blood was shed and is poured into the ground in Tulsa. And because of that, the ground, the land belongs to the descendants. And so when we talk about restitution and repair and respect, knowing where the bodies are buried will bring a sense of restitution and repair, because the land belongs to the descendants. And that is something that will be part of the restitution, because it's not just about economics as far as money, but land is powerful. This country goes to war over land. And so for us, the ORR is very important, the open records request, to first step in getting to knowledge and to getting to restitution and repair.
Wow. Wow. I mean, you really got me pumped up talking about the remembrance and the respect and the dignity, because remembrance is a radical act of love. And so we're not just throwing paint on the wall. This is robust. This is comprehensive. We're leaving no stone unturned. So again, thank you for your 20 years of service to this fight for Greenwood. We're just honored to have you as a member of our legal team. And without further ado, we'll turn it over again to Attorney Damario Solomon-Simmons for our question and answer session.
All right, man. I'll tell you what, we got some amazing folks on our team. And I've just been spending some time in the comments and seeing people from, like you said, Doc, all over the country. And I just ask everybody right now, just drop in the comments, where are you listening from? Where are you taking in this Facebook Live or this YouTube, or if you wherever? Just drop your city, your state, and a hashtag Justice for Greenwood. So, you know, our time is getting short, but we always want to leave some time for Q&A. We get a lot of questions, daily email calls, and we always try to get as many questions as possible. And I know DJ was going to answer some questions with me, and I think we was going to have our social media and community assistant, Jerica Handy, who's a sharp young lady on our team that keeps us older folks in the know, you know, so we won't be as, I don't want to use the word because I'll never get it right anymore. So listen, let's get to the Q&A. Let's answer some of these questions and continue to move this Justice for Greenwood conversation forward.
Let's do it. Thanks, Damario. As you mentioned, I help manage our social media and community relations for Justice for Greenwood. And we received quite a few questions from social media, and we're going to go through them right now. So here's our first question. And this is for anyone who wants to take it. When will we see financial compensation?
Hopefully soon. I think Jackie Emerson said it best. I mean, and by the way, Jackie Emerson is my in-law. She's blood relatives with my wife, Mia. She said it best. It's been 100 years too long. I think she said pay up and pay out. And so when will we see financial compensation? As Professor Mueller said, you know, the courts take a long time. But one of the things I'm so proud about Justice for Greenwood, one of the things that we were able to do, we're able to raise some money to give money to our survivors as a gift. And we have a part of our mission, a part of our heart, part of our work. We want to continue to try to raise money and try to provide what we can as an organization. But we are looking for those entities who perpetrated the harm and perpetrated the 100 years of continuing harm to pay up. And we're going to use every legal means that we have. We've already filed to date, I think 6 or 7 lawsuits. We have other lawsuits that are in the making, and we will continue to file viable lawsuits and continue to fight until we get financial compensation and respect and restitution for all those impacted as survivors and descendants of those who were victims of the massacre.
Absolutely. Next question is, how is this legal action different from others in pursuing justice for descendants?
I guess I got to take that again because I'm the lawyer. But I think Professor Miller did a great job at explaining this issue. Look, in the early 2000s, when they bought that case, you had some of the greatest civil rights attorneys in the history of this country, people like Charles Ogletree, people like Willie Gary, and the great late Johnny Cochran. That case was kicked out on statute of limitations issues. And that's what makes our public nuisance case so powerful. In fact, just yesterday, just Google Johnson & Johnson. They agreed to a $26 billion with a B settlement on opioid litigation. Remember, the opioid litigation is what we are piggybacking on for our public nuisance litigation. So we believe strongly, we're not the judge. We don't know what the judge is going to do, but we believe strongly that the law is on our side. We believe strongly that the facts are on our side. Hey, even Mayor Bynum, who we know is not for Justice for Greenwood, even Mayor Bynum is quoted as saying that the racial and economic disparities that we see in Tulsa today is a direct result of the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre. Even Mayor Bynum is on tape saying that. He may have wished he didn't say that, but he has said it, and we have the video and we have the quote.
Yes, we do. And something that we value at Justice for Greenwood is actively working and listening with the community. And a big part of that work is involving our descendants. So Our next question is, how are we identifying descendants?
Damario, I'll take this one since I'm
Please do.
the coordinator.
Please do.
So the way we're doing it right now, we have the Descendant hotline that we've mentioned multitude of times today, as well as our Descendant intake form on our website. That's the first way. We talked to Richard Cellini from the Georgetown Memory Project, and he recommended that we also do a top-down approach. So the way we're doing it currently with the Descendant hotline as well as the intake is a bottom up. So we have descendants reaching out to us, but we are also trying to be proactive, and we are actively being proactive with finding the ancestors from 1921, earlier that, just so that we can do the complete genealogy of all of those ancestors so that we can have a big and robust list of descendants. And even, I believe about a week or two ago, one member of our team, I believe it was Greta, who was an amazing individual. Shout out to Greta, I see you. She found a list of, I believe, around 4,000 ancestors from the early 1920s, probably before. So our goal is to take that list, do complete genealogies for those 4,000 individuals, and think about that. So 4,000 individuals from early 1900s, and we do their complete genealogy, right? That's 4,000. Multiply that by 10, right? That's at least 40. I'm not a math professor or anything tomorrow. You know, it's not my strength, but it's going to be a lot of people. So
Absolutely.
we're doing bottom up right now, and we're proactive with doing a top down. So that's how we are identifying descendants.
Yeah, and DJ, I mean, every time I hear this, I get so excited because the possibility of what not even a possibility, like what we are actually doing is creating a definitive role. Like, you know, I'm a Creek citizen, so you had a Creek Freeman role. We're gonna have a role of ancestors that we've already started to create. So you have the original 193 folks that were certified by the state of Oklahoma. That's also what we're working off of. And like you said, Greta has found this list. So now we have over 4,000 individuals that we know were in Tulsa at the time of the massacre. And as DJ talked about, I would encourage all of you that's listening, look up the Georgetown Memory Project so you can understand the organization that's mentoring us, that's working with us, and the work that they have done. They have found there was 272 enslaved Africans from the 1830s, and through their process that they've been teaching us, they found over 10,000 descendants from those people from the 1830s. Can you imagine how many descendants we'll be able to find from the folks starting just in the 1920s and with the documentation? It's truly an amazing project. I'm so blessed and happy that we're doing it. And if you guys who are listening think this is something you want to be a part of, hit the Justice for Greenwood hashtag and get in touch with us, because we're going to need a lot of volunteers to help us get through all these descendants and these survivors.
Yes, we will. So get connected with us for sure. Well, that's a great segue into the next question, which is, how can someone who's a descendant get connected with us?
Multiple ways. Descendant hotline, call that, put in your information. Descendant intake form, fill out that information. And then that's right there, that number right there, 918-209-3771. If you are a descendant and you have not called that number yet, call it right now and put in your information. Don't wait, don't worry, we're working. Call it right now, 918-209-3771. If you have not called that number, if you haven't reached out to us yet, call that number right now so you can stay up to date on what we're doing, because we're growing very quickly, we're growing very robustly, and we want to work with you. And the only way we can do that is if we have your contact information so that we can get connected with you.
And we got some amazing things we can't talk about now because we just got to wait. That if you're going to be in our network and you're going to be a verified descendant in our network, it's going to be some amazing opportunities for you that's going to come through Justice for Greenwood. And I want to say we have a national group, volunteers from around the nation that's helping us. But listen, we still are a small organization. So if you don't get a call tomorrow, we will call you. We will get with you. But definitely, you can call that number, as DJ stated, right now. Someone's going to answer it and take your information.
Yes, so please get connected with us. And next question. What has been the impact of this massacre on the economy of Black Americans in the area?
DJ, you want me to, you got that, or what you want?
I feel like you could take that one, Damario.
Okay.
I feel like you're more accomplished in that end than that one.
Well, you know, it's interesting because one of the things that we were successful in doing in our project was really making sure people understand the scope of the damage in Greenwood, and not just the 40 blocks, not just the, you know, they say 10 to 12,000 people, but when people understand that Greenwood was the city, like if you go to New York, Manhattan is called the city. Greenwood was the city to all these black towns all around Oklahoma. At any moment, you may have 15, 20,000 people in Greenwood working, playing, buying commerce, visiting family members. This was the metropolis. When you devastated Greenwood, you didn't just devastate us here in Tulsa. You didn't even just devastate black people in Oklahoma. You devastated Black America. I mean, John Rogers, and we just recently posted this on our Instagram account. You should go follow us right now at Justice for Greenwood. We just posted John Rogers, who's the great grandson of J.B. Stratford. Now, John Rogers is a very, very successful investment banker. He said, look, I know the magic of compound interest. And my grandfather's hotel, which was the largest black-owned hotel in the nation at the time, was worth $125,000. He said, if my grandfather's business would have been able to grow organically the way it was over the last 100 years, it would be worth over $100 million. Now, that's just one business. That's just one business. We just heard that John Emerson owned multiple businesses that was destroyed. We know that Dr. A.C. Jackson, whose medical office was located right where they built the Greenwood Rising, Greenwood and Archer, that was burnt down. We know that he was considered the top black surgeon in the nation. How much is it worth to lose him? Not just his money, but his intellectual property, his legacy. How much does that cost our entire community? So the scope of what happened to us is immense. And that's why the scope of our recovery must be as just as the word we've been saying tonight, just as robust, just as big. So as Jackie Emerson said, that's going to be my new battle cry. 100 years too much. You need to pay up and pay out. If you believe that they need to pay up and pay out, hashtag pay up Tulsa, pay up and pay out. Hashtag Tulsa, pay up and pay out. It's not all about money, but it is also about money. Because in this American system, how do you show that you are really sorry? How do you get recompense in the legal system? It's a check. It's money. So don't make us feel bad when you stole our money. J.B. Stratford, you stole $100 million and then tell us to feel bad. So pay up, pay out, hashtag Justice for Greenwood.
Absolutely. And something we know for a fact is that so many of those wealth creating assets were destroyed and taken away, removed for generations to come. So
over 1,250 homes alone were burnt. Imagine that 1,250 homes were destroyed, burnt and or destroyed. 1,250 homes. Start with replacing those homes. Anybody that is a descendant of someone that lost a home should get a home replaced by the city of Tulsa, the county of Tulsa, the Chamber of Commerce, just like they're doing out in California with Bruce's Beach. They stole that land from that family 100 years ago, and they're giving it back. The land is now worth $75 million. It can be done, and the Justice for Greenwood and our amazing legal team, we're going to make sure it's done.
Thank you for that. And next two questions. So next one, was anyone ever held accountable for the massacre?
To this day, no one has been held accountable. No arrest, no convictions, no reparations paid. This is another reason why we cannot allow what the city is doing with the open records, the mass graves. How can you trust the city when the city is the purveyor of the crime? How can the criminal investigate the crime? They have a duty and a motive, a bias to downplay everything because they are the criminal. They killed the people and they buried them there. So no one has been held accountable, but we are holding them accountable, even by us being resilient and talking about it today. They thought we were all dead. They thought this issue was all over. They were going to throw a big party, say Tulsa triumphs, Greenwood is rising, and everybody was going to go off thinking everything was all good. But we are here with our 500 plus survivors, our community of national partners, people around the world standing with us. We're getting donations, support from around this nation, people saying we want to fight for Justice for Greenwood. Use this to fight for Justice for Greenwood, and that's what we will continue to do.
Absolutely. DJ, do you have anything to add to this one?
Yes, I do. I do have one quick thing to add. Just as our descendants are survivors and descendants of the Tulsa Race Massacre, we also, I know for sure, have perpetrators of the Tulsa Race Massacre who are still in Tulsa. I don't know them personally, but I know for sure if we have them with us on the other side, there are perpetrators of the Tulsa Race Massacre as well, with descendants to this day.
Absolutely. The next question, what is the best path for reparations? What would reparations look like?
Well, I know our time is getting low. We only have a few more minutes, but I would just say the best pathway forward is what we're doing. Agitating, litigating, educating. Agitating, litigating, educating. I say it again, agitating, litigating, educating for justice for Greenwood. And what will reparations look like? I encourage everyone to look at our lawsuit. Look at the legal team's lawsuit, look at pages 67 to 73. We lay out a plan. But we also say, Your Honor, we need an opportunity to continue to work with our experts. What reparations looks like is fairness, equity, justice. That's what it looks like.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And our last question I can actually answer, and it is, what can your everyday people do to help? So if you're not already following us on social media, please make sure you do. It really helps our cause when you engage with us, and it would mean a lot to us if you shared what we do with your community. So we actually already have a post ready to go for you right now on all of our social media platforms. So go to our page, check our latest post, and share it right now. And make sure you hashtag Justice for Greenwood and tag us. And with that, I'll throw it back to Dr. Crutcher.
Wow, that was amazing, Jerica. You are a powerhouse. Thank you so much for all that you do to keep everyone well abreast on what's happening with Justice for Greenwood through communications and our social media platforms. Again, how can you help share this post on your personal social media pages? You know, go hit like on our Instagram page, our Twitter page, our Facebook page, and make a donation. Go to justiceforgreenwood.com, because this fight for justice isn't free. Damario said it earlier that it isn't about money, but guess what? Money is just as important as oxygen. We need it to survive, but guess what? We're tired of just simply surviving. We want to thrive again, just like we did 100 years ago. So again, hashtag Tulsa owes. They owe us. We're not going to be gaslit. We're not going to be deemed extortionists. We're not going to let them say it's just about money. Yeah, it is about money, or they wouldn't be fighting us this hard. We will thrive again. We will win. And again, make sure that you invite someone to this town hall next week. We're going to be on the ground serving. We're going to be asking the community questions. This is for all of us. It's going to take all of us all across this country. Remember, there's a Greenwood diaspora. 10,000 people were displaced all over this nation. And so we need you to hashtag Justice for Greenwood. Call Mayor Bynum. Let him know that Tulsa owes, and hit like. And don't forget, if you're a descendant and you want to get involved, call our descendant hotline. We appreciate your time. We know it's the most precious gift you can give anyone. And one last shout out to our community partners, Joe Deere with the Cherokee Nation, and our BTW alumni, our Hornet Silence and Hate. We can't do this work alone. We can't do it without you. And we are so grateful. So see you next month, same time, same place. Follow us on our pages to keep abreast on next steps. We love you. And again, let's say a prayer to our team, to our leader who will be traveling to Washington, D.C. to keep this fire burning. No pun intended. Everybody have a great night.